Well, thanks for joining us today, Travis. I'm here with Travis Bowlin.
That's me.
We're here in Gadsden, Alabama, at the Mary G. Hardin Center for Cultural Arts. We're here for a permanent cigar box guitar display that's downstairs. You've participated in that. You've got a build down there. I thought it'd be fun to spend some time with you. We've talked online, but we've never met until this weekend. So This is exciting for me.
For sure, likewise.
Yeah, I wanted to do a couple things. First off, just point out that to those who've not either heard of you or seen you before, you're an international recording artist. You have what is it? Moonbeam Records is who you record under. And you're not just a musician. You're a builder, family man.
Oh, yeah.
You have a pretty active life. In fact, I'm shocked that we get to spend some time here because every time I see you, you're on the road.
Yeah. And honestly, I had something else I was supposed to do today, but luckily Mike let me know in the time. I had it all worked out. Tomorrow morning, I got to hit the road at like 7 a.m. to get to a double. That's like 3 hours away. So I got to be in a town in North Georgia for a couple hours. But I'm always down for the cigar box guitar to play, to see my friends and meet people. So I try to make it all work out if I can. So
right. That's cool. I mean, I think it's fascinating that someone who's as proficient and, talented as you are with a 6-string guitar can so easily shift to a 3 or 4 stringer on the fly.
I think, people see the 3-string cigar box guitar and they're like, what is that? And I'm like, well, it's 3 strings less than what you're used to. It's half as hard, half as easy,
You think.
So, well, and you explain to people, if you can get them this, if you can get that, you see like the lights turn on in people's eyes. You see like the ears slick back a little bit. Like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. It's super easy and super comfortable. And, the cigar box guitar was just a weird thing. Like I didn't realize I had the blues until a little bit later in life. Everybody said, oh, you sing this certain way, or, you have this way about you. But it wasn't until I got older and found my own research of the blues and, to realize that all the rock and roll that I grew up with, excuse me, stem from the blues and the history of all that. So about 10 years ago, a little bit before that, actually, I was working a office job, and I had 24 employees underneath me. It was like a vision. It was like an insurance gig. And I had a lady who worked underneath me whose son was building these. And she said, oh, I think my son wants to build you something. And he basically built me like a cigar box Les Paul almost. And, it had some wonky things about it, but overall I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. It's one of a kind. Somebody made this for me. And as I got into the business a little more full time and I moved to Nashville, I was kind of luckier than most people because I had a job waiting for me outside of town. I had a place to stay. I had just some things, that I had to obviously work for when I got there, but I had a nice soft landing. And I met some people through the NAMM trade show, which is, where all the gear for music comes out. And John Nichols, who is, a staple of this, was there. And I met John and then went out to Anaheim, and I was trying to work out. I had worked out this electric guitar deal with a company called Music Vox out of Cherry Hill, New Jersey. They had all the guitars in Austin Powers, the band Ming T, who was playing all the psychedelic guitars. Right. Is a Jewish dentist. Wow. Those are his guitars. And I always wanted one. And I ended up making friends with this guy. He gave me a guitar. Come to find out, he was really good friends with Shane Spiel. Oh. So I met Shane out in Anaheim. And, Shane had, the first traditional one I saw. And I was trying to get one from Shane, because when you're at NAMM as a musician, you're always trying to get swag. You're always trying to work out deals. And I just kid you not, he said, build one yourself. And I said, well, I will then. And so, the first few I went and got some cardboard Swisher Sweet boxes that I'd found. And then, went to some podunk hardware store and got those posts you put in your garden that are like bowed, the garden post, and I didn't know anything. And they were all baritone scale. I had the nut, the bolt, the tuners or whatever.
Did you end up reinforcing the cardboard box?
No, because they were neck through. I figured that out. Yeah, I did figure it out. I did some of them where it was laying on the top, like a lot of guys did.
Right.
And then a couple were like, people were like, well, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. And then I built myself a nicer one with a better pickup that I played,
Mm-hmm.
And then people were like, that's cool. That's cool. And I don't know, for years and years and years, I was so intrigued by the junk aspect of it, because I'm like, I don't throw stuff away. I'm always turning stuff into art.
Right.
And I really like that. But when my son came along and the touring and things got a little bit busier, it was hard for me to build. I got a lot more time to make a neck. I mean, just taking the time to do that, it's a process. I mean, I can do every aspect of this down to anything, but do I want to take all that time?
Right.
So, people like Michael Breedlove and these other guys who have, necks, which allows me to focus in at the end of the day, the art aspect and the playability.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is more important to me, is to make sure that it plays great. It's comfortable and it looks one of a kind. And so a couple of years ago, something just kind of different flicker in my head, and I kind of started to make them more streamlined. I started getting into like, let's paint them like cars. Let's paint them like traditional guitars. Let's make more 6 strings. Let's not, let's still give people the history, but not have to sell it as hard.
Right.
Because, it is hard. Like you were saying, it's like 3 strings. People look at it like, what is it? What is it tuned to? What are you doing? But you have, a 6 string with a box on it, like, oh, yeah, it's a Bo Diddley guitar or something. And, it's got.
Yeah, the minute they see a rosewood fretboard and some regular frets and the mechanical tuners, they're at least not making the leap.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's a good shot.
And I'm left-handed, so here's one of my left-handed models here. This is a splatter painted.
Yeah, sweet. Love it. You've done some sparkle paints that are just like a car.
Yeah.
I think you answered one of the questions I had meant to ask you, Travis. What's your least favorite aspect of the building process since you're a builder? And I think I caught on that the neck is maybe one of those at this point.
It's the time. It's the time. I mean, I made like 400 some instruments in the last 10 years. And
wow.
It was up until a couple of years ago, I did all the necks, and it's just, but now I know that I have a exact consistency. There's a quality, there's a research and development. I'm using the exact same parts every time, even on the 6 strings. It's like, if I use Mike's neck, I use this one specific bridge, this one specific pickup, volume and tone pot, because it's going to be always the same sound every time, And then I can get up into some of that stuff where I have guys call me that, the sky's the limit. And I love that because I'll just put whatever, you want locking tuners, you want a bone nut, you want body through bridge, you want the biggest, fattest pots I can find,
Right.
You want $300 pickups, let's do it,
So, yeah, I think I agree with you. I haven't built 400, I've built about 100, but I definitely love the custom builds where somebody has a baseline vision that I can then take and put over the top. That's always a funner proposition.
I have one where a guy found this image that he just really loved, and it was like a bald eagle with like aviators. Right. And so I put that on a box. I put it through my vinyl plotter. I put it all on there, sealed it, and it's like totally one of a kind. Never, ever, ever will there ever be another.
Yeah.
With the cigar box thing, it's like the one of a kind aspect is really cool, but there's plenty of those boxes out there.
There are, yeah.
And sometimes you get a box and you're like, wow, that is just the most beautiful. Like I found this Olivia box, a red one, a big one, one of the big ones, and I was like, oh my God, this is gorgeous. I'm not going to put a drop of paint on this. Right. But then you find some like brown one that's got like just some random words on it. You're like, oh yeah, I can't wait to throw paint all over that and just make something wild and crazy,
Yeah.
And expressive. So, and I've just been trying to get, match any kind of paint job that I would see on a guitar. And I'm always learning more new things. Like a lot of this is done very patiently with cans, just very patiently. But I have a spray gun, I have an airbrush, but I haven't got to that level of comfort to where I want to use it because I'm like I do so much with so little already. Yeah. And my brother's like, well, just think when you have more, how much more better you're gonna be. And I'm like, I'm just gonna start thinking of it like that.
You almost have to when you get to that point.
Yeah.
Well, so awesome. So we know what your least favorite part is. What is your favorite part of building?
the painting them, and then when you give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, I have a couple of people who play with me regularly, and, since I'm left-handed, I can't always totally fully test them out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you give it to your buddy or my wife who plays, and, they open up on it, and you're like, oh, yeah. You just, like, your chest is like,
Yeah.
to the
It is
next
a good
row.
feeling.
It is. It is, because, I don't have really any professional training as a luthier. I mean, I played music. I just turned 36 today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to wish you a happy birthday. It's on my card right here.
Thank you. It's the first time I remembered it myself. Everybody's been asking me, Mike. But I've been playing. I got my first guitar when I was, like 15 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been around guitars enough to know what's comfortable, what's not. But you learn every day. You learn more and more, especially as you get into the fretting and certain parts and things like. I never really thought about that backwards neck bow.
Oh, yeah.
Very much, because I did get away with some straight ones where the fretboards are straight. But now I'm like, you learn that little angle, you get that just right, it saves you so much headache. I'm like trying to get a fret a little bit lowered or doing something, else. And it's just all these little things and keeping it all center and, keeping it on the fretboard. I mean, I do see guys in some of these groups, where it's like, I love the guitar. I'm like, oh man, this is great. But the neck will be all like halfway crooked. I'm like, there's no way anybody's going to be able to bend that high string. I mean, just like loosen it up, pop a shim in the side and straighten it up, So there's things that I obsess over. I love the painting. Mm-hmm. A lot of my paint jobs will take like, 3 days, because you do one, like with this was this box was red.
Right.
But it wasn't the red I wanted. So I had to sand it rough and then paint it with this red. You let that dry, wet sand it down. Then when I splatter, what I'll sand down there is I actually put on 2 rubber gloves and I just spray my hand.
Oh, okay.
And that kind of gives me some control over how I want it. And then you let that dry and you sand it, then you clear it, and you're usually pretty good. But the sparkles take the longest.
Yeah.
That's because you have to bury it in the clear.
Right.
So it's not like, completely gritty.
Right.
And I love setting them up. The guitar I did for a guy, gave it to him on Sunday. I spent 7 hours on Sunday getting that perfect.
Just with the
As
setup.
low as humanly possible, just making sure everything was dialed in, so I'd never have to mess with it again. Mm-hmm. And people are like, man, that's, but I'm like, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to have that attention to detail. And, he played it, and he come back the next day before the gig. He's like, there's just one thing. I said this. He's like, this B string's a little buzzy, and I pulled the Allen key out of my pocket and I just adjusted it a little bit. It was gone. I said, let's go to the gig, man. And he tore it up, and everybody was at the gig like, what the heck? Because that's what I like too. It's like you pull it out, and they're like, they have a look on their face, what the heck is this? And then you play like something coherent, then the next thing they're either trying to buy it from you or they're like, what just happened? Mm-hmm. So they're cool, man.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I just finished a project that wasn't a cigar box guitar, but it was a guy who enjoys specialty bourbons and whiskeys.
Okay.
And he knows the distiller and his wife personally. They're out of Kentucky, and Old Carter's the brand. But he said, hey, can you make me a lamp out of this? You do woodwork. And I said, yeah, all right, I'll do it. But he's a fellow military retiree, so I took the project on, and the more I did it, I think we're all kind of the same. I said, well, I don't want him to have just this lamp base. That was too easy with walnut. That was the local wood where the distillery is, so I used walnut. I said, I'm going to make him a tray to put it on, but so it's movable, so I get the tray on there, and that's not good enough. I laser engraved the logo onto the base so that if it was separate, it still had that. And I thought, I'm going to put leather handles, and it's like a guitar, right? It just grows, and the creative side comes out. But to your sparkle story was where I was going with this. I love tongue oil.
Yeah.
Well, tongue oil's 12 hours between finishes. I did 8 coats, and then I 4 out steel wool between each. And you can slide a T-shirt across it.
Yeah.
It's that to me is, not just the smell, but also
I like that.
The feel. So when you said that, you can't just leave it that way, there's a lot is buried under all that clear coat.
The devil is in the detail. It's so funny because that's a cliche saying.
Yeah.
And so is, leaving well enough alone. And I got to tell myself both of those things all the time.
Yeah. I usually have my wife tell me that.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah, it's done. Well, is it really though?
Yeah. I mean, but I could do this next thing. And in fact, when I presented it to my buddy, he's like, wow, this is way more than I ever asked for. I just asked you for a lamp base, but he was floored, and then he wanted to share it with
That's cool.
that person. But at any rate, I thought maybe if you could, because I know it's not often that I've had recording artists with me, and you made this particular guitar. How would you feel about noodling around or playing a song of yours or one that you enjoy doing?
Okay. I'll do a little bit of something. Walk through miles to see you, baby. You know my body's sore. I walk through miles to see you, baby. The old soles in my shoes, if you want. Well, I knew I shouldn't have quit you down in Vicksburg, Mississippi, baby. Oh, my way to Chicago. Used to always find the humor in this world full of pain. Said I could always find you laughing, bringing a smile to this world of pain. Well, I knew I shouldn't have quit you down in Vicksburg, Mississippi, baby. My heart was aching all the way to Chicago. Said it's never too late, take it on back, baby, and I'm gonna bring it on home to you right now. Said it's never too late, take it on back, baby, and I'm gonna bring it on home to you. Ooh, I was a fool to leave you, but a wise man to better myself and go. I was a fool to leave you, baby. Now I'm back, honey, pack your bags, let's go. Well, I knew I shouldn't have quit you down in Vicksburg, Mississippi, baby. I've come back to take you with me to Chicago.
And that was awesome.
That was off my last record. It's called Vicksburg Blues. You can find that on iTunes, Spotify. I did play Cigar Box. My last record, I played a 6-string on Cigar Box on all the songs. The last record, I think we had 6-string on every song and then 3-string on 3 or 4 songs. So like Dancing with the Devil off the last record, Record Shop, Vicksburg Blues, all those are on Cigar Box Guitar. No one can tell, really.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was just going to say. I think, and I changed the camera around, which is not my norm, so that we could watch you play. But I don't think most people, if they close their eyes, would realize that was 3 strings.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean,
they would probably just think I was in some kind of unusual tuning and I was just picking from the higher end of the guitar.
Yeah.
Like, like maybe in a key of D or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
It's fantastic, though. Thanks for sharing that with us.
I appreciate you.
All right. Well, I think one of the things I wanted to find out for me, clearly the blues is Travis, right? But who are some of your influences? I mean, it wasn't always a blues, you pointed out.
No, I gravitate a lot more towards like soul and R&B and funk music.
Yeah.
A lot of times my solo shows, like, you saw earlier when I use a looper.
Mm-hmm.
So, that backing track's not always going to be the same. It might be more of a jam band situation. Like some people are like, I thought you did that yesterday really cool, but he said, whatever mood you were in today is just funkier, and I was like, well, probably, I was just feeling more funky today.
Because there was a looper doing some of that, huh?
Yeah. It's just like I might do a rhythm different or something,
right.
I just might be really on it one day. And, what was that? What was the question? I forgot.
No, I was looking for who some of your influences were, but.
So, yeah, I mean, I really loved growing up, like some of my favorite bands. Like I love Three Dog Night. I love 3-part vocals like that. Mamas and the Papas, another 3-part vocals. But rock and roll, I grew up listening to Zeppelin. I love the Doors. I mean, if you had to ask me like, some of my first albums, it was obviously Beatles stuff, Mamas and the Papas, the Doors, all that really good rock and roll. But when you go into the blues, one of my favorites is probably always going to be Freddie King. Out of all the Kings, Freddie had the most attitude in his playing.
Yeah.
And I just love, there's some videos of him live in like Switzerland, right, playing. And it's just like he's playing that 335 through a basement. And it's just like, just in your face. And I kind of come full circle, really, with that, because I grew up like, wow, that's just, Freddie King is the king of the blues for me. And we named our son Riley after B.B. King. His real name is Riley King. So that's how we named our son. And, but my partner, Meg Williams, and I were using a publicist. We ended up meeting another publicist who ended up doing all the work for Freddie King's brother, Benny King, who played bass on all the live stuff.
Yeah.
So I ended up I got a video. I built a 2-string bass for this festival that they were part of, and Freddie King, his brother Benny King's has my bass, and he's like, we'll be raffling this off at the show. And
nice.
So it was all cool. It's crazy being in like Nashville and being tied, because there's that red sparkle guitar down there on the table. Like 3 weeks ago, I'm at my Tuesday gig, and this guy asked to come up and play. And that gig, I'm usually pretty open. If people come at me with the right vibe and I feel like they know what they're talking about, I'll let them get it. This guy tears this thing up. He wrote 2 pina coladas and was playing my guitar, but he had too many drinks. He didn't let me know. If you're out there, I'm calling you out. You told me to message you on Facebook what pickup that was, and you never messaged me back.
That's great.
Yeah. So I listen to a lot of oldies, a lot of funk. From Cincinnati, we have Bootsy Collins was there. So, I listen to a lot of P-Funk.
Wow.
And, I love Ohio players.
Nice, yeah.
Grew up on a lot of 70s and 60s music, doo-wop, Motown, all that. I always had a lot of old influence in my life. So
that's fun. I do ultra running, so long runs.
Yeah.
And I have Ohio players on my iPod Nano.
So, oh my God. Does the Nano not even have the screen, does it?
Nope. Only holds 4 hours, and it's got a corded earplugs.
Better make sure it's only a 4-hour run, or you might get bored of your songs.
It's funny. I ran 179 miles, and I didn't even listen to 4 hours of music on it. So when I'm running, it's a whole different zone and vibe for me. But well, that's great to know. I mean, I think oftentimes people watch one of their favorite performing artists, and they never get that backstory, that we just went through with who some of your influences were, or who you like to listen to. You said Led Zeppelin. First thing I thought of was When the Levee Breaks, and the genesis of that song was in the blues. They did a remake, but that's the popular one.
I can almost remember exactly where I was at the time when I started getting down that rabbit hole and realizing all the music that I love was stolen from people who hadn't done it.
Yeah, right.
And then you learn about those people getting a diddly bow in West Africa from their relatives and it all. and it was just like all this. And my grandma, there's a lot of bluegrass pickers on my mom's side, so I would go to the family reunion. But on my grandmother's side, she was the one that gave me my first guitar. God rest her soul, we just lost her. And she always encouraged it, but I remember her having a mountain dulcimer that she picked up from some guy in Kentucky years ago. So, we always had that kind of, always was like that Kevin Bacon, 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon to, the roots of all this stuff. So, it just took me putting it all together. And, I really found a home. I was telling them down there, I said, it's like, I suffer from a little bit of ADHD in my whole life. Like, I've learned how to master a bunch of skills, but I always can fall back on.
Right.
But singing and playing music and building these things is 2 things that I have continued to stay true to. And it's just always it's always running through my mind.
So with ADHD, you mentioned singing and playing. Does that calm you like some guys are calmed by mowing the grass?
Yeah, I feel like that's my place.
Yeah.
It's like I have difficulty talking off the stage to people, but when I'm there, I'm like, it's like the show.
That's funny. I've talked to a few people who are naturally introverts, but then you see them on stage like you, and what you just alluded to anyway is, and not that saying that you're an introvert, but you're more comfortable once you get on that stage. But it's funny that so many, artists, performing artists, are similar.
Yeah, it's hard to be like, I don't know how to explain it without sounding a certain way, but it's almost hard that people think you're cool and the things you do are cool, but you're not necessarily thinking that all the time. You know what I mean? Or you're just like, you're always gonna, as an artist, you're always gonna pick apart yourself, and you're always gonna, because it's a lot of nerve putting your feelings and your emotions and things online, whether you're painting or you're singing, and to be judged by everybody.
Right. Yeah. Especially when you're a detail guy and you're conscious of it, like you just pointed out a little bit ago, spending 7 hours prepping the setup so that someone else could play it and feel comfortable doing that. But that person could have easily went through some of that had you just done 4 hours and let the other 3 be to them getting familiar with their new instrument. But I'm with you on that. That count.
Like, I wanted them to just be ready to go.
Yeah. So, do you have any builds on your bench right now?
Right now at the house, there's a ukulele I'm working on with a glow-in-the-dark paint.
Oh.
I'm trying to get it to glow in the dark, keep it the original box color. So I've got the box done. The headstock was giving me a little bit of a fit. It was kind of like really thick on there, and it wasn't glowing like I thought it should. So I'm going to sand it off, restart it. And then I'm working on a mandolin for a guy, a friend of ours. He had a mandolin, the top collapsed, and I could have easily probably fixed the top of it, but he was like, no, I'll just use the parts and make me a mandolin. So I'm working on that, and I just have that started, and I want to build myself a 6-string. I haven't ever built myself a 6-string. Mike's built me a few.
I was just going to say, that's the way it is, though, isn't it? You build for others. It's like the car mechanic. His car's never working right, but everybody else's is humming along.
I just built this for myself 2 weeks ago, just so I'd have one for here in St. Louis next week, because all I have was stuff that other people built me.
Yeah.
And, it's important to play my own stuff. It's just, you never have built any lefties, barely, Right. So it was like, I'm going to build me this one. And then I found this crazy little 25.5-inch scale bass on Amazon. So I'm going to because, finding a box for a bass is always a tricky.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And since I do a heavy trio where I play bass, I've been trying to put together one myself. And I found it looks like a little Warwick that I found on Amazon. And I'm going to use all the parts off of it and build a bass out of that because, I have plenty of boxes that are 10 or 11, 12 inches long.
Sure.
And I'm trying to build some stuff for myself right now at this very second. I got some orders on the dry erase board, but I'm waiting on this one lady reached out to me. Her brother saw me, and then she and her husband saw me, and they're like, can you build one for my brother? And I'm like, oh, yeah. They're like, at his brand, and when I think of his brand, I'm thinking, well, you know, Bob's brand, he's a Marlboro man. You know, I'm a Camel guy. No, this is actually this guy's cigars.
Yeah.
His
Oh,
cigar
wow.
brand. And I was like, I felt so stupid. I was like, oh, wow. I said, yeah, send me 2 of them. I want to have one. And so I'm waiting on the boxes to be sent for those, and because she's going to surprise them with that.
That'll
So,
be fun.
Yeah.
That gets back to that custom thought. I
Yeah.
think.
And I probably won't touch any paint on it. It's probably just leave, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
And I think they're a little shorter than I like. So I told her, I said, oh, I'll cut a piece of wood brace and put it on the back of one of the ends to get a little bit of length. I can figure it all out.
Good compromise.
You know? It's like one thing with, like, here's one thing with these. So, like, and this is just a little thing. So this is Mike's bolt-on neck,
right?
Which I love these, but to get away from, like, with me painting them, I don't have to cut the panel in them because I would just mount it backwards.
Right, exactly.
So, and another thing I've learned, like, you bolt them in, I always put a piece of wood back in there and I reset it, but I always screw the lid. So these necks aren't going anywhere.
Right.
The 6-string ones, I put a hunk of wood in there, drop 2 bolts in there. Those are funny. I was telling the guy, when I do those 6 strings, I bring them up to tension, and then I lay them on the floor and I put my knee in them and I bring it all the way back and I drop 2 screws in there to where it's not ever, and then I reset it.
Then you reset it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how I get it super low.
Yeah, and I tell you, you're bringing up a thought. You were talking about the bass guitars, and to me, when you're talking about string tension and the collapse of the mandolin that you've got on your bench for a new one, that's a tough one to get those right.
Yeah,
for that reason.
Bass. I always like to do like or my higher end 6 strings. They always have a core and the neck bolts.
Okay, so
my more affordable model would be Mike's neck, a bolt-on neck, less work for me.
Yeah.
But my more expensive one, it's a core.
Right.
Bolts to it. I mean, it ain't
their
neck, the string through, the strings, locking tuners, all the goodies. With the bass, it is hard because it's a lot of tension, and I would always do that.
Right.
The mandolin, it's my first one, so I know I've got some learning, but the way I braced it was very similar how I do the 6 strings.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was an old neck that I had to actually steam the neck to get the old heel off.
Oh.
So, I mean, I have to use real luthier skills here.
Right.
And then I had to, because you know how a mandolin, if you think about it, and then the neck heel kind of comes up, and then you have the neck. Mm-hmm. So I had to compensate for that. So I had to basically rebuild the heel. Mm. And then I dropped one of those, what are they, the hanger bolts.
Hanger bolts.
One got a hanger bolt, a nice fat one, and then I'm just going to mount it in there like the 6 strings, and I don't think it'll go anywhere.
It won't go anywhere.
I blew the fretboard down, because, the fretboards kind of come up a lot more. Yeah. So, and I built fiddles and stuff, so it's all like, mm-hmm. I don't say no.
Right.
I just figure it out.
Yeah,
because there's no reason to say no.
That's what makes it fun, though.
And wood is so forgiving.
You're right.
You might have to shave off a little piece, but you can get it to figure out.
Yeah. Well, so this glow in the dark build, did you have in mind a night gig or something with that, or what made you want to do a glow in the dark?
I just saw the can of it, and I said, "Well, that's weird."
Okay.
And a guy was talking to me about he went to some art exhibit, and the guy was playing like an all-white guitar, and they had the projector like projecting on the guitar, and then he got to talking about, do you think you could make a guitar I could mount like an iPhone in it or an iPad to show some show? And I was like, and then I got just thinking other illuminations, and I saw the thing of the glow in the dark, and I said, well, that might be kind of cool, just and a couple of people I'm trying to work on ukuleles for, so mm-hmm. I was like, let me experiment. I always like to experiment with the paint. The one paint job that I haven't got down that I'm always is burst, man. Like bursts are interesting because you see people do different things and using different products mm-hmm. to get them. And some of I was watching these Paul Reed Smith videos, and they like stained it with the black, and then they sanded it off so all the black was in the grains, and then they started doing the bursts of the other color. And I'm just thinking, do I need to put some thinner in this stuff that I got? Or,
Right.
you know, because I've been trying to use regular stain. I bought red dye, clothes dye, because I watched a video of that.
Yeah.
I bought that unicorn spit stuff that's like the most vibrant.
Yeah.
That stuff's cool. I did that on those lap steels down there, and
cool.
it almost worked, because what I did with those lap steels is I put the unicorn spit, which is like a very vibrant stain, and then I went back over it with an ebony, and the ebony sunk into the grain.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, maybe I need to do 2 different products and try to get something worked out, you know. So it's all trial and error, man.
That's the fun of it.
That's the fun of it. And even stuff I thought was ugly, there's a guy out there who's like, those are my colors, man. You know, it's like, I like green, but I don't make a lot of green things. But I got a buddy, that's his favorite color, man. If it's green, he's like, I gotta have it. You know, like, all right, yeah.
Well, very cool. Travis, I'm suddenly conscious of your time, and knowing that you've been gracious enough to, you know, offer to play here and a couple of opportunities during the rest of this day, because you're elsewhere tomorrow. And that's what I was going to ask you. I know you have your flyer, and where can we see you next?
Well, if you check out travisbowlin.com under tour, my tour schedule is pretty up to date, and I have a new single, Leaving Again, that came out yesterday, and I was playing that downstairs. But I do my own cigar box event. This is actually the 3rd annual Travis Bowlin Cigar Box Guitar Music and Art Festival, and it's in Blue Ridge, Georgia, which is a beautiful nature tourist area in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And this is sponsored by MGB Guitars and a number of other cats. We have 12 artists this year, and 25 vendors, food trucks. Everything benefits the local youth. So if you want to come hang out for the weekend, a suggested donation is a toy, new toy. And I'll be dropping my new record, my 3rd record, Hooks and Grooves, on Friday. And we'll have a Learn the Harmonica class sponsored by Honer, and we have a Kids Build a Ukulele class sponsored by MGB, and a bunch of really fun things going on the first full weekend in October. And it's a lot to do this stuff, you know. It's a lot of money and time. A lot of calls and time. So if anybody's wanting to be involved, we love to hear from you.
So great. So Friday, October 4th. 4 to 8 p.m. it looks like.
That'll be my CD release, and then Saturday and Sunday we'll have 2 other full days of festival. So first full weekend in October, Blue Ridge, Georgia, 3rd annual Travis Bowlin Cigar Box Guitar Fest.
Fantastic. And Travis, do you have like a YouTube channel? Or?
Yeah, you can just, if you type Travis Bowlin in on Google, I've got everything under the sun. Yeah, there's plenty of stuff out there.
Yeah, it's great, because I think people are gonna want to hear more from you, just based on the one song you did for us. So
thank you. And that one is available out there. It's from my last record, so
very cool.
We'll be able to hear that entirely.
Well, I think in closing, Travis, you've given a lot of good advice. So I won't ask you my traditional question about what advice you'd have for a new builder who might be watching.
I will answer that.
Okay.
Go all out.
Go all out?
Go all out. Learn, just do everything on the first one. Just get it all out of the way. Any idea you have, just do it.
You see the excitement he had for producing a new attic? That was fantastic.
Yes.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate it. I want to close by saying happy birthday again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What a great gift kind of to us, actually, for your birthday. But I hope that you get some quality time today. And and with any luck.
Somebody already bought me birthday lunch.
There you go.
Pretty good today.
All right. Well, that's what I was going to suggest. But thanks for joining us on this episode of the Suitcase Sessions Podcast.
I appreciate you, brother.
Normally say to everybody else here, you know, there are no rules. Just keep playing, and we'll catch up later, down the road.
Thank you.